Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub, your space bar at the end of Twitch. And this is the Captain's Table, where I bring people from all over the Star Citizen universe to talk about Star Citizen. Various different aspects. We usually have some sort of theme to it, sometimes just general news and just conversation. But I am joined by two esteemed guests here. We'll start with you, Subliminals. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? And where can they find you?
My name is Subliminal. Some people call me Subliminals. Don't really like that. Just Subliminal. I own the TV. Just Subliminal.
TV. It's his TV. Okay.
Yeah. I have a YouTube channel on YouTube where I start out with my videos saying, I'm going to tell you how to spend a ton of money on some stupid JPEGs, and we're starting right now. And I also stream live on Twitch 3 days a week.
All I can say is that I'm looking forward to hearing that voice with the shorts. The number of shorts I'm going to hear from that, because that sounds very much like all the shorts on YouTube right now. I'm going to tell you how to do this in 30 seconds or less, you know. And it's Subliminals TV on Twitch and YouTube, right? Both the same name.
Yeah, Subliminals TV on everything. Yeah.
Nice. Yep. And Zero, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
Well, my name is Zero. XeroState on Twitch. And YouTube, I think. Well, I hope so.
It is XeroState.
I don't do a whole lot of YouTube, but I'd like to this year. That was one of my resolutions for New Year's, to do a little more YouTube, get into 318, do some stuff. I stream a lot, more often than I probably should, between 4 to 6 days a week. I work full time, so I stream in the evenings, like 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., 6 p.m. to 10:30, 6 p.m. to 11 when I really want to lose sleep. My typical gameplay, I do a decent amount of PvP. I really just like playing the game for the game, you know. It's that always makes me really happy.
What's in the game? Yeah.
Well, yeah, what's in the game, and just like, I don't know. It's just I feel like I enjoy doing a bunker mission once in a while to break it up. You know, I don't want to I'm not hunting PvP all the time. You know, so yeah, I really just like the multifaceted gameplay with a lot more PvP than PvE, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm like the opposite. I do a lot less PvP.
A lot less PvP. You do a lot of analysis on PvP stuff, though, on ships and weapons and stuff.
Yeah,
like
ships
that.
and weapons.
Well, ships.
I guess like those. Yeah.
It kind of carries over into both PvP and PvE, but in some aspects of it. But
yeah. All right. So let's start off with the current. What's the current state of like ships and weapons and kind of content in Star Citizen right now in 3.17? Are we in 5 now? In 3.17, Zero. What is your overall kind of status? If someone was like, "Hey, what's the thing right now in Star Citizen for any kind of combat?"
There's a lot of high speed, and this is something I'm sure we'll touch on again, but. Fights almost invariably get up to this high speed. We don't have things like control surfaces. Atmospheres don't really affect ships. They do, but they don't really affect ships as heavily as maybe they will in the future with things like control surfaces and the ability to just hover. You know, we kind of have this automatic hover mode thing going on. In space battles, it's almost impossible to win a fight if you stay under SCM speed, which kind of means, but it's so easy to go above SCM speed and just you're going 5, 6, 7, 800 meters a second, which I don't actually hate that. It's just when it starts to become really, really jousty that, you know, it has that potential all the time. So I would say the combat in ship combat in Star Citizen is very, very slidey, very flighty, and typically pretty high speed. So that's how I see it for the most part. But that doesn't make it bad. I think hit reg is okay, and ship-to-ship desync is pretty good. A lot better than it was in like 3.16, at the very least. So,
Subliminal, what's your current take on 3.17?
The first part, he said there's a reason why I don't really PvP all that often. I mean, I fell in love with this game because of Jumptown, and PvP seemed fun back then. I know it was a lot faster paced than it is right now, and that wasn't really the reason why. It was just I just want you guys to understand that I started out with Jumptown. If it hadn't been for Jumptown, the original one, not not 1.0, not 2.0, not 2.1. The original one.
OG Jumptown Wars.
Yeah. I wouldn't be here like today. I wouldn't be playing this game. That's what I fell in love with. But I feel like every battle I get into, I'm either playing against someone who does it all day, every day, and they're just waiting for me to get to wherever, and I'm not going to win the fight, or it's somebody who's either going to just leave or just joust me to death. I've fought viewers before, and I guess they think that because I'm a streamer, I'm supposed to be real good. They joust me the whole time, and I'm like, hey, can we just slow this down a little bit? And then boom, one of us blows up. You know what I mean? And it's like a much better fight. So I can't wait for them to slow it down.
Okay.
Because it's too fast. The jousting is really, really annoying to have a guy get his shields brought down and then he just like leaves for a little bit and comes back and back in the fight, you know?
All right, let's with that talking about, let's talk about the changes for 318. Is there anything, we'll go over them individually, but just overall, the changes that have been happening to combat in 318, what are your thoughts, likes or dislikes so far, Subliminal? What do you think?
I don't know about the ballistic changes that they've made. The soft death is nice though. That's really cool. We had that happen to us earlier today. I think we got hit by an Idris railgun. I don't know. The frames were so low we could barely tell what happened, but it was very hectic. But that's nice. That's exciting. That's getting to the point. I've always told people that the day that I can disable someone's ship, board it, and then take their warm bounty that's when it's all come to fruition for me right there. I want to take a warm player bounty and, you know, be Mando in space. That's gonna be awesome. So soft death is nice. I don't know about these ballistic changes. I rated the Dark Law earlier today, and he was talking about it. He has good ideas about, like, and I have similar ones where the ballistics could have more ammo, but give us a reason that we have to stop. So either they run out, overheat, like run out, and you have to replace the ship has to like change out a cartridge, or they overheat, or the capacitors could somehow affect how long you could fire the ballistics for. Maybe incorporating some of that into it. But as of right now, it's weird.
Like maybe like accuracy bonus like changes. So like the capacitors help keep it on target. And
well, no, I think the idea is that like you can just hold the trigger down with the ballistics forever and never have to you know, charge a capacitor or reload it. It's just you hold it down to that doesn't happen in real life. Every gun, I'm not too much of a gun enthusiast, but I mean, you shoot a gun, it's going to overheat it. You can't just keep firing it forever. They need to implement something like that. I think the reason why they're hesitant to do that is because they want heat to be a long-term consequence. I think it can be, but maybe make that for components only, or also make it for ballistics as well. Like I think they want heat to be, you've overused your weapon, so now it's less accurate, or maybe you can't fire as fast, or maybe you have to go repair because you've overloaded it. And we're nowhere. I don't even know if we're anywhere near that point of actually having to implement it into the game. But I would like to see a reason for ballistics to have to stop firing for some reason.
Okay.
I think that would go a long way other than these changes that they're making now.
Zero, what are your overall goods and bads? You kind of feel like your big high and low for the changes they've made for 318.
Yeah, I think the shield ballistic changes were cart before the horse. And then I feel like there was a band-aid put of the like kind of fake armor damage reduction value that they applied. And it was kind of like, well, you wouldn't have had to do that if you didn't do this, and you did this like way before you needed to. So it kind of just feels like a weird situation. And it's like maybe they're gathering some data. We've had some conversations about that. It could be. But they haven't said as much. The only thing I've seen is that Yogi said in a Discord server as an answer to the question, why now? Said, well, we're going to do it eventually, so we decided to do it now. That was his only answer. So that's kind of all we have to go on, really. So it could be that they're getting a lot of data. That could be really good for the implementation of armor in the future. But I think the way it plays right now is rough. It's kind of like you have this double-edged sword of like, okay, so you make the ballistic shield change, that's fine, but then you can kill a Corsair with a Buccaneer in 8 seconds. And it's like, that's not okay. So then you go with this damage reduction thing, and it's like, okay, now ballistics are back to not having enough ammo and not being very good because there's not this, like, the way that armor interacts with different weapon sizes and the way that lasers may melt hulls or melt armor or whatever they're going to do, that none of that's in. And so now it just feels like a weird kind of, what's the word? Like is cartoonish the right word? Not cartoonish, but like just a weird, like, slap together thing. It feels very like welded together and not like a complete thing the way it should be. And it's kind of like, why don't you just take all this and put it over there until everything is made so that you can now put it in and it makes sense. It just, none of it seems to make sense right now in 3.18, at least in my gameplay, the gameplay that I've had. Just kind of cobbled together, ad hoc, cobbled together, whatever. It feels very strange.
But I agree with the whole cartoonish thing where it's like you added something that was overpowered, so then you added another thing to make it effectively the same thing as it was before you overpowered it.
Yeah, and
just
still weird,
and
still just an odd thing,
Yeah,
because now it just feels it's a very. I mean, it does add a little bit of variety because it's like, okay, maybe maybe shields are helpful against lasers. Maybe there will be a few more mixed loadouts. I think mixed loadouts are going to go in the direction of distortion and lasers, but that's a different conversation. It creates the same problem we had before in 3.17, where it doesn't feel like there's quite enough ammo. So I think a better option would have been to increase the ammo of all ballistics by about 25%. I think that's fine for me anyway. And then decrease their damage by about 5 to 10%, and then maybe tweak their shield the shield resistance for ballistics or whatever a little bit or whatever. And then just, you'd have people start using them because, okay, we have enough ammo to make them effective, but we still want to use mixed loadouts because we still need to kill the shields, before the ballistics are effective. I don't know if that's the direction that CIG plans in the future. I have a feeling they have something where ballistics are only effective against hulls once the armor has been melted by lasers, which is kind of the same thing, but that's just like a year, 2 years down the road.
Yeah.
And so to make all these changes now just feels very cart before the horse. But like I said, maybe they're getting some data from it. I don't work there, so I hope so.
So I'll ask you this question, Zero. You mentioned, you brought this up. This was the next thing I was to talk about. What do you think about the distortion changes? Good, bad?
I think overall they're good. For the most part, I think it's there's a lot of splash damage on some of them. Like somebody was firing some distortion cannons. Like they were like hitting like 30 or 40 meters away from my ship. It wasn't even close. And I saw my ship was like the engines were on and it turned off. And it was not even it wasn't even hitting. It wasn't even close. And they were like, did I just shut your ship off? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, I wasn't even shooting near it. I was shooting at something like a ways away. So I don't know what's going on with that. But other than that, it does seem kind of interesting. We'll have to see how they balance the distortion stuff.
So what would you say the difference is between, because I haven't used distortions in the newer patch. What would you say the difference is now between what it is now versus what it was?
Well, I think they're a little more effective than in 3.17. I think they did something with cannons to bring back some of that splash damage. There was a lot of splash damage for the distortion, or splash distortion. And when you shut off a ship completely with distortion, it's off. Apparently, it's supposed to be off for 5 minutes. So if the ship shuts down, it's down for 5 minutes, which is a long time.
You're just dead.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't. It can't. I mean, it's kind of like a piracy thing, right? So you shut somebody down, you have 5 minutes to deal with them. The problem is that distortion doesn't stop you from self-destructing. So if somebody shuts down your ship, and you know that they have 5 minutes to just mess with your ship, they're going to soft kill you, or you're going to self-destruct. I mean, most of the time, you're probably not going to like get out of your seat and try to defend your ship. So it's a weird thing. Another thing that feels a little bit cart before the horse. But I think they really, I got to be honest, I think CIG just wanted to see piracy go nuts for a patch. So it really feels like the soft death thing, the distortion thing with 5 minutes, all these things, distortion being so good again, the Mantis being one of the fastest ships in the game, and the Cutlass Blue being just about as fast as the Mantis. They're both like 13 something now. They both go like 1340. They're fast.
Really boosted the blue.
Yeah.
The blue.
I think they did. I think they changed all those max speeds for later when they do master modes. So I'm guessing that all this will be kind of reined in by whatever they decide SCM is for these ships. Like that'll matter, But for now, the Mantis can catch almost any. Like the Mantis can catch light fighters.
Yeah.
Like the Arrow is not as fast as the Mantis. The Gladius is not as fast as the Mantis. So if you're in an Arrow and a Mantis pilot decides to stay, 15 kilometers away from you with his snare on, you can't get away ever. Like you just can't do it. And Mantis is pretty fast in atmosphere. So it's a lot of weird changes. There's going to be a lot to get used to in 3.18, I think. Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Subliminal, your thoughts on I guess you already said you didn't really have a chance to see the
I mean, I've been playing the game for a long time, and I love distortions. Especially, okay, so I'm gonna tell you right now, dude, when they added in atmospheric PvE combat, that was like the coolest thing I didn't even know I wanted. And when you threw in distortions kind of working, my Banu Defender, I'd slap 2 distortion cannons on that thing, and in 3.17, it's like some ships can be shut down, maybe some can't. I can't really dial it in, but hurricanes just fall out of the sky after a few hits. And it's just awesome, dude. I have Toby on, and I'm like low flying on purpose and trying to get them down low. And then, I shoot them down. They just fall to the ground and then blow up. It's like the most satisfying thing ever outside of old Jumptown PvP.
Oh yeah.
I mean, for PvE combat, it's the coolest thing ever, man. I love it.
I remember the doing stuff like that with a Connie, like early days of piracy. Like very early 3.0 days of piracy, if you could shoot the engines off of a Connie fast enough, they would just fall out of the sky. Because the engines are the only thing that keep it going. Even though it has like thrusters, those engines are the only things that are keeping it up. But it won't destroy the ship if you like saw off the engines. So just sawing off 1 or 2 engines, it would just start falling or start spinning. And it's just so fun to watch it slowly descend to the ground and then bounce.
Yeah, we had some Jumptown stuff where we soft killed an A2, and it's going to be interesting because certain ships soft death an atmosphere better than others. And by that I mean if you soft death a constellation, it kind of lawn darts and hits nose first and almost always blows up. But if you soft kill like an A2, it kind of tumbles and it can land on its side a lot more, and that absorbs a lot of that initial damage. We soft killed an A2 and it came in hot, and when it landed, it just kind of went bonk, and landed. Whereas the Constellation fell about the same distance and it just blew up as soon as it touched the ground because it was coming in, nose first. But
overall, I'll start with you, Subliminal, on this. You touched on the soft death. You think it's a good change, and would you like for them to keep it around? Even though we don't have, like, say it's like a year or so away from actually having the sort of damage system we want to have where you can repair those aspects. Would you like to still see the soft death stick around for the long term until we have that? Or do you think it needs to be changed, or would there be any kind of tweaks you would make to that soft death system now that we see it?
I guess the soft death system, when you look at it like that, it's kind of like a Band-Aid to put in because it's not fully featured. So no, I wouldn't want it to stand around. The most important part about it is that I could disable a ship and then board it. So that's the most important part. However they allow that to happen, it doesn't matter how it happens. But I'm really excited that they just sometimes, man, they come up with these wacky things that they just do, and they work better than a bunch of the things that they sit down and probably have 100 meetings about. You know what I mean? Like the ballistics, they do all this work to do that, and that's okay. Nobody knows if that's good or not. And then somebody probably was like, "Hey, you know what? What happens if, like, when you die, you might not die, And then they just put that into the game, and then bam, everybody loves it. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's like the heartbeat system. Like I think it was like 2 or 3 people built the heartbeat system, just like, this will be a nice way of kind of making things better, and it completely defanged 30Ks for a while. It's just like, wow, that's this is a Band-Aid, and it does more for the game than the game features do.
Subliminal, I forgot to mention this, but when you're talking about the ballistics and heat, so heat's been in the game forever, and it's still in the game. So if you fit cannons, if you fit cannons, especially small cannons, you see heat all the time. If you fit even small ballistic repeaters, you see heat. So like the sawbucks and buzzsaws, they overheat before they run out of ammo. And it's it's so frustrating as a PvP or as a combat pilot, because all that CIG has to do is take whatever that heat value is per shot and just go and turn it up a little bit. And then we have overheat mechanics working again in the game. And that would help. Like, you could make ballistics as powerful as you want and just go and turn them up a little more. And it would be like you can fire a burst of 30 rounds before it's overheated, and then you have to wait for it to come down, and that would naturally kind of create this balance. You could make something super powerful and then immediately defang it by adding overheat and creating this dynamic around it of like how it's used and how it can be used. And it's pretty frustrating
realistic.
that you can just dump ballistics without dealing with any overheat at all, So it's like the frustrating thing is heat is there. It's already there. It's already working. The values are already in the game. They just have to turn it up. And that's been pretty frustrating.
Someone mentioned it earlier because a lot of my older videos are talk about attritions, but attritions were the first ones I think to have some sort of a heat deal where they overheated when they were
and they did more damage too.
Yeah. So I've always loved those weapons. It kind of gave you it was like the capacitor before the capacitor. It gave you the ability to use some sort of skill in your trigger discipline to do more damage over time.
Oh man, I remember you mentioned the old jump town. I remember the old jump town trick, which was slap a bunch of attritions onto an arrow, turn the shields off, and you could kill hammerheads with the arrow and those attritions.
Yep.
Because as the more you fired it, the more they overheated, the more damage they did as they hit. So like the hotter they got, the more damage they did, which was pretty cool. But yeah, so and you're right. That's pretty much what CIG it seemed to be going for in the first place. But they kind of are this just weird position. Would you change anything subliminal? Anything for the soft death version for right now?
For right now, I think it's as good as it needs to be until everything else is in. I think it's good.
Zero, same question. And your thoughts on soft death overall, and would you change anything?
I think soft death is pretty great. I think the one thing that I don't know if I'd change it, but I would just make sure to like do like balance passes on it if I were CIG, which I'm not, is like how doors function with soft death. Because there was somebody doing some testing, and I think what they came away with was that if you soft death the ship and the doors were never messed with, like they were never locked or unlocked, they would open. You could just open them, which is fine. I think that's okay, because once a ship is soft death, like all the systems are gone or whatever. But if the pilot manually clicks the lock button, the doors don't open because they were locked before the ship soft death. So it's kind of a bug that's kind of in there, but I would just like to see some of those things ironed out with like, it's nice as a player to be like, I've soft deathed this ship. I now know exactly how it's going to work. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that would help kind of smooth out a lot of that gameplay.
Okay. All right. Moving forward beyond soft death and 318. Let's talk a little bit about master modes. This is the hot button topic that I think a lot of people are concerned about. I'll start with you, Zero. What are your opinions on master modes and that kind of change that's going to be coming up probably this year or shortly or after 4.0 is released?
I think it's a good idea. Obviously it's a great way to slow down combat. And we had something like this. I can't remember which patch we had it in. Way back in the day when pretty much all we had was Port Alizar and like Security Post Korea as locations to go to. That was pretty much it.
Oh yeah, where you could blind jump.
Yeah, and there was a cruise mode and an SCM mode. So there was cruise mode and SCM. And cruise mode's maximum speed was like 1200, 1400 or whatever it was. And SCM was your combat speed. You couldn't fire your weapons when you were in cruise mode. Everything would shut. I think your shields actually shut down too. Your weapons shut down. You can fire missiles, obviously. And so we've already kind of experienced. A lot of us have kind of experienced something like this. And I thought it was pretty dynamic. They're going to have to rein in how fast you go into cruise mode and stuff. Because I remember a lot of times you'd be fighting somebody and then he would just be like, oh, I think I'm going to lose. So he would just cruise, and just immediately be able to get away from you. And then you'd have to try to chase him, which was, weird because if somebody cruises, you have to cruise and you can't really catch up until they stop and they could just cruise forever, So they're going to have to balance some of that stuff and figure that stuff out. But I think overall it's a good idea. And it makes the verse a little smaller, which isn't a bad thing because it's like, okay, I'm at Security Post. I've cruised to Security Post Korea. I've quantum there, and now I'm cruising into the station. Now I'm at the station. So now I have to think about when I go to a place, I have to think a little bit more about what's my escape plan if I need to. Can I just cruise away can I just go away in SCM? Can I just fly away? Or do I have to have a plan to cruise, to get into cruise mode? And is there somebody who might be able to stop that? How can they stop that? So I like that it adds more depth to a very boring thing, which is travel. Travel is a very boring, you're quantuming until you're not quantuming. That's pretty much it. So I like that it adds another layer of depth to travel and another layer of depth to risk and combat. So I think that's good.
Subliminal, your thoughts on the cruise modes and call it cruise mode, the master modes.
All right, so one of the best things I think that this is gonna do for me, I always say that the most frustrating thing while playing this alpha is that getting from point A to point B is a lot harder than it should be. Like, you're trying to quantum to some place, and it's like cycling between the ohm and the target or whatever. You know what I'm talking about, and you can't do it. It's that is the most frustrating thing. Imagine as a new player, all you're trying to do is get your ship from one point to another, and it can literally be a hassle to do. And I think by them adding this, they might be able to get around that. The Moby-Glass is absolute trash. And whenever they get around, like, the star map,
hot takes.
Yeah.
Hot takes. That's like that's would slow down the hot takes of the Star Citizen has a bad star map. Oh wow, controversial opinion there, Subliminal.
Oh yeah, very controversial. Yeah, I'm the only one who agrees with that.
In the chat if you would trade Knickknacks app for a better star map.
God,
yes.
I don't even use the Knickknacks app. Somebody mentions it, I'm like, oh yeah, we have that.
I forgot that we had that thing exists. Yeah.
But yeah, clicking something in the star map is atrocious, and I get it. They need to fix it whenever it's best for them, right? Like, we're getting the opportunity to play this game, but they have to develop it the way they would if we weren't playing it. If they want to get it done as fast as possible, and that doesn't really happen, so it takes a long time to make this game. But anyway, I'm really excited about how we might be able to like negate all these other bugs by being able to just like point at a place and quantum until you don't want to anymore, and then you stop there. You know what I mean? You got a mission marker to go to, and it's not a place where you can quantum travel to, so you've got a coast there.
Yeah.
What? Like for 5 minutes? It's crazy. Anyway, yeah, so I'm really excited about that. And of course, I agree with everything Zero said about the other aspect to it. I am a little bit concerned about people being able to just, boost away or whatever you want to call it. But I think based on the way they talked about it, they understand that. And there's going to be some sort of a cooldown. I think when you come out of it, you won't have shields or something like that, or when you go into it, you're gonna be vulnerable for a bit.
You go into it, it's gonna it brings your shields to 0, and then it engages, which is good because there's like a timer there, right?
Yeah,
and when you come back out, there's like 50% of your shields on average. I think some ships are different. That will be held in reserve, and that when you come out of cruise back in as you drop into SCM, they will come back up, and even if you're getting shot. They'll come back up. It's like a shield capacitor or something they call it.
You have some sort of like invulnerability for a couple of seconds after you come out, so you won't be able to just get instant gibbed when you come out with the travel. But I think it's definitely proportional. Like the faster your quantum spools up, the faster your shields go down. So if you have a slow quantum drive, your shields will slowly descend. It won't be an instant turn off and then go sort of thing. So. But yeah, let's move on to the other major thing that's coming into the verse, which is control surfaces. They have mentioned it in the monthly report for Squadron 42 that they've been working on the control surfaces. Subliminal, your thoughts on the control surfaces, on the addition of control surfaces, and what would you like to see in terms of performance or in terms of gameplay when those control surfaces for ships comes in for atmospheric gameplay?
Like I said before, the atmospheric combat was really, really cool. And as of right now, it feels bad in a lot of ships. Either the ship, like the Banu Defender, may not have ever been touched as far as like dialing in like how it should fly in atmosphere. Don't let them hear me say that.
Yeah, the Banu Defender is an oval shaped object as far as atmosphere is concerned. It has no.
Yeah, I mean it's an alien ship. They're all shaped that way, And then you have the Avenger Titan, one of the best starter ships, and now goes in atmosphere, and you can't turn until you're like 50% of FCM speed. So I'm excited for them to be able to get in, dial that in, and now they can have something they can tweak and work on and dial in, so the ships can can fly, decently in atmosphere. I mean, I think the ones that perform some of the worst, and I'm talking about smaller ships, obviously, that perform really bad, perform too bad, and the ones that perform too good are too good. So I would like to see some realism with that. I'd like to see some, like, you lose part of your ship, and you've got to counteract that with the way you fly, rather than just like the thrusters. Again, it's like I'm excited for these new things to come in, because when they come in, I feel like they'll fix a lot of problems that we have currently.
Okay. What would you? Is there any like things you think that should get surfaces that may not be obvious, or any kind of control surfaces? Because you talk about like alien ships, for instance. Would you still like to see alien ships perform better in atmosphere, even though they don't have an atmospheric kind of?
They're all alien ships. Changed my mind.
That's
if they were sitting right here today flying around, it'd be an alien ship.
Most of them aren't built on Earth. Most of them are built off world. So
Yeah, I mean, they're all alien ships. That's what it is. It's alien to us because we're so far away from having something that performs like that. So I don't get how, like, if we're supposed to be competitive and fighting against aliens, our ships need to be able to perform like theirs. I don't. Yeah. I get it though. Like, for the design aspect, it's like the non-alien ships have thrusters and they have one throttle, whereas the alien ships have the cool dual sticks. When look at us, we're all rocking dual sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody. What was Burks the last one to hold out on that with I think he was using a stick and a mouse for a little bit.
Yeah, he was mouse and pedals for a long time, which is really effective. But
yeah. And dual sticks is the way to go. You have 6 degrees of freedom. You should have a control setup that's dialed in for that. Anyway,
hey, don't trust us. Trust NASA, because NASA's been using dual sticks since the Apollo program. So
yeah, it just makes sense. But it's Chris Roberts. He wants to be cinematic with it and tell a story, and I get it.
Zero.
But no, I think they should all handle the same. But of course, differentiated between the archetype of the ship.
Okay. Zero, your thoughts on control surfaces being added?
Well, I love the idea. I think something that I kind of think of with it is, I think we're all very excited for realism. Mm-hmm. But if realism becomes really frustrating or really boring, then it doesn't make for a fun video game, As like Subliminal said, kind of like everything is 900 years in the future in Star Citizen. They're all kind of, these ships are using what we would, if we saw a Gladius flying through the atmosphere as it does in Star Citizen in, the world, we'd be like, that was made by aliens. That was Martians, right? Mm-hmm. And even though the Gladius is a very, very, very human ship design in Star Citizen, so we have to build a video game more than we're building a sim. And if those two can intersect and be fun, that's great, So I'm kind of a bit of a believer in control surfaces are great, but when you start to overwhelm a player with controls and realism and simulation aspects, you start to make the game as a whole just a little bit less fun and a little bit more frustrating for the majority of players who might be a little bit more casual, who may not want that hardcore sim experience. And I think that that's probably the majority of players, although there are a lot of players that really want, those sim aspects too. DCS. But so, yeah, I think like control surfaces, it's a great thing to see. The little I've kind of heard Seiji talk about it. It would kind of stop a lot of ships like Arrows, maybe Gladiuses, whatever, from being able to just kind of hover in atmosphere indefinitely. They've talked about like overheating the upward strafe thrusters, your maneuvering thrusters that are holding your VTOL thrusters. They'd overheat after a short period of time. So it would allow you to take off, and then you have to start getting forward momentum to relieve the stress on those thrusters. I think that makes sense. I think that's good game design. I think it makes sense in the Star Citizen, universe, and it creates really interesting combat. I'm going to give you guys a little secret. Elite Dangerous's combat is a semi-atmospheric while you're in space combat system, because there's a speed where you can go where your ship turns the best. Mm-hmm. That's semi-atmospheric. Like, that's when you're in atmosphere. If you're going too fast or you're going too slow, your ship doesn't, or your plane doesn't turn well. Your yaw is very slow in Elite Dangerous.
Yeah,
that's an atmospheric thing. That's, in Star Citizen, our yaw and pitch are basically the same speed, because we're kind of like, there's more. It's just a different flight model.
Yeah,
I think it's more realistic to space, but Elite Dangerous, I think, it has a very interesting combat system, because there's ways you can fly your ship in Elite Dangerous to make somebody overshoot you, and then you've got them. That's cool. And Star Citizen doesn't super have that. Sometimes in atmosphere it does, but I think control surfaces and kind of forcing a lot of fighters to have forward momentum to keep their altitude in atmosphere, which control surfaces look like they're going to do. I think that creates that kind of gameplay, where you can do sort of atmospheric maneuvers that might give you an advantage over an opponent. And I think that's really cool. Adds depth,
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to ask some more controversial questions, because this is something that's come up a lot, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. Zero, how do you make medium fighters great again?
Well, depends a little bit on the medium fighter, but I think the Banu Defender is probably the best blueprint we have for a medium fighter right now. A single size 2 shield, more quantum fuel than light fighters have, a little bit more hull HP, obviously, and a little bit better weapons complement. That's really, to me, all that a medium fighter needs. Plus, maybe some armor characteristics, like the Hornets, if they're medium fighters, could have heavier armor. Maybe they would have 2 size 1 shields, but much heavier armor. Whereas a Banu Defender, it could be a medium fighter size ship, and it would have, rely more on shields, just like, the Redeemer versus the Hammerhead. The Hammerhead relies on armor more. The Redeemer relies on its shields heavily. And so I think the Banu Defender, I think all the Reliant series should have a size 2 shield, and they should have more quantum fuel, because they already have the weapons of medium fighter. Like, they have a lot of weapons, but they lack in the HP, they lack in the quantum fuel, and they lack in the shield department. I think if you beef those things up, you create a clear distinction between, the Arrow, the Gladius, the Talon. Those are light fighters. They have size 1 shields, they have size 1 HP, and they have size 1 quantum fuel and size 1 weapons complements. Banu Defender, the Reliant series, maybe the Super Hornet, some of the other medium fighters, maybe size 2 shields, maybe heavier hull HP, maybe heavier armor. So I think just beefing them up and giving them more quantum fuel kind of separates them from what a light fighter is. So I think all the Hornets should have more quantum fuel. I think all the Reliants should have more quantum fuel. And I think that would really separate them, especially as we get to like Pyro.
Okay. Subliminal, your thoughts on how to improve the current status of medium fighters?
He hit the nail on the head there. I think the issue with them kind of now, other than the Banu Defender, is like their maneuverability it just isn't good enough. It's like they nerfed it like too much. But yeah, they need to be semi-maneuverable and have a heavier payload. The quantum fuel part, we'll have to see when Pyro comes in. They'll probably do a rebalance of that anyway. But mainly, it just needs to have more weapons and still be able to maneuver decently. You know what I mean? And not just get kind of like just caught up. When you're in a Saber. I can't wait for the Saber to be meta again, man. Yeah. Well, yeah, no, everything he said. Make the Saber great again.
I'll ask this, because this is something you brought up a lot. I did a video on like a lore video on the surprising depth that the Gladiator has in terms of its lore. It has some very in-depth stories and lots of other things about it. It brought up a lot of people say things like the Gladiator is one of their favorite ships, but it's just not very good in game. So thoughts on things like, say, the Super Hornet or the Gladiator, the ones that are not the Scorpius or the Hurricane, in terms of like multi-crew combat ships. How would you improve multi-crew beyond, say, what CIG is already doing with things like the resource system being added? Start with you on that.
So wait, you're not just asking about the Gladiator?
Oh, I mean,
the
Gladiator, but also other, like, just in general, because if you're not in the Scorpius or the Hurricane, like nothing else really matters. You know, all the other ships are just subpar in comparison to it. Even larger ships with more turrets and such, they're dangerous, but they're not nearly as dangerous as or as easy to maneuver or to use as a Scorpius and a Hurricane. So how would you improve that kind of multi-crew combat experience? And should it be improved?
And you're talking about like a low amount, like a
2 to 5, like a 2 to 5 person.
they need to have more variety, because all they have right now is like a big gun on a ship. I mean, you got the Hurricane and the Scorpius are basically the same thing. They're nimble, smaller ships with a big gun at the back. It needs to be more than that. Like the Gladiator should maybe have bigger torpedoes, or maybe make the size 5 torpedoes more deadly, and maybe give it like a torpedo operator mode or something like that for the second person to do. It needs to have more teeth for sure, because as of right now, it's just kind of pointless, to be honest. I hate the ship. I want it to be good. It would also be nice if it could drop bombs, but it needs to be more than just slapping big guns on the back of something that's kind of small and nimble. I mean, the Redeemer's the same way. It's something that's maneuverable for its size, big guns.
Yeah.
And like, I want to see more. I want to see more than that if possible. More things to do.
Zero, your thoughts on how to improve the kind of multi-crew state other than just the 2 defaults?
Yeah, I mean, co-pilot gameplay is a big thing that I think a lot of people are waiting for. A lot of people want to co-pilot a constellation and be able to like control stuff. They want to be able to control power and have it matter. You know, they want to be able to control shields and shield facing. And there's times where we've seen glimpses of that, where the co-pilot actually had control over stuff, and everybody was super excited about it. And then like the next update kind of made it, go away. Just not really anything CIG did. It just stopped working. Missile operator modes for co-pilots. I remember, I think it was 316 I think it was 316. I was in a Cutlass with a couple of friends, and we had a co-pilot and we had a turret gunner, and we ran off Vanguards. I mean, it wasn't close, because that's a powerful ship when you fully crew it up, if the co-pilot gets used to the missiles. Because I was flying and I was shooting. We had the turret gunner just wailing away, and then we had the co-pilot who was able to look around with his head look and fire missiles like off to the side and like make these ships more powerful with like support roles, So I think co-pilot's probably a big way to do it. Internal repairs, component repair, I think would be a really cool thing. Some guy running through the ship of his Redeemer while Paul is just blasting away at it with his Inferno.
Because I hate that ship.
You're right, yeah. Trying to like repair a shield generator, or trying to like repair the power, or trying to repair the quantum drive, which got taken out or is heavily damaged and malfunctioning. I think that'd be great. I think that's a good logical next step to, creating, especially for bigger ships, creating kind of like almost like a non-combat, both combat with co-pilot stuff and non-combat roles, It's like in what was that video with the MSR that they did with the two people in the MSR, where she was like, I got to go back and fix something or whatever it was, and then it was like, get back there and get in the turret, that kind of gameplay where you're talking with somebody and they're running through the ship, to try to like make things happen. I think that's really exciting gameplay. It creates a new game space inside the multi-crew ship that is like that's kind of like sealed away from the outside, gameplay. You don't always have to be connected to the outside gameplay directly, like in a turret, to affect the outside gameplay. Like if your quantum drive is busted, you can fix the quantum drive from inside the ship, maybe, and you have changed how that ship can interact with its outside, experience. So and I think that's kind of a cool, like telephone game or like connection from the inside the ship to the outside the ship.
Yeah. And I'll also add on to that one, because I think the chat's bringing this up a little bit, which is it also improves the experience, because the question comes down to, why should I have a hammerhead with 7 people on it versus 7 arrows or 7 gladiuses? And if the answer is, I can fix my quantum drive mid-flight, you can't, then you've got at least some advantages to that.
Yeah. Or even repair structure of the ship from inside or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Keep it into the fight longer, just because you have somebody who is an engineer kind of running around. So
Yep. Yeah, having a co-pilot in a hammerhead to like, okay, our left shield has been just decimated, and having a co-pilot being able to be like, zoop, our left shield is better.
Yeah.
That would change. That would strengthen these multi-crew ships so much, to be able to be like actively reacting to what's happening to your ship as it's happening. That'd be very cool.
It's also really fun. I've played games like Star Trek Bridge Crew and Pulsar, which are all multi-crew player.
Yeah, I played Artemis a lot with some friends. Artemis is kind of like Star Trek Bridge. Yeah. It's like a bridge simulator. Yeah,
it was the prototype for all of the other ones that came out after Artemis. But yeah, you get the idea. Like It really does. Once you get the flow in, it really is fun for as an engineer or the Sea of Thieves situation. You've played Sea of Thieves, where it's just constant, like someone who's repairing, they're not bored. They're running around, and it's that Jack Sparrow, stop blowing holes in my ship kind of situation where you're
when people ask me about
hammering and everything. So
when people ask me about what Star Citizen is, this happens often. I'll say I kind of have been leaning towards like it's a bit like Sea of Thieves. In space. I mean, there's some other aspects, obviously, like Daisy style aspects or Tarkov aspects, but like it's kind of getting into this place where like multi-crew kind of matters and like ship roles are starting to matter a little bit, and it could be better at that.
Yeah. All right. I guess we'll wrap this up before we move into the question and answer section. I'll start with you on this Zero. Overall, is there anything, if you had the ear of CIG's balanced teams like right now, if you could sit down and talk with them and you could pitch them one idea, what idea would you pitch to them right now for 2023?
Okay, make Idris variants and sell them. You'll be millionaires. No, I'm kidding. Okay, that might actually be good advice, but anyway. I think I've said this before, but I think they've been doing it a little bit, but I think more ship variants is a cool idea. If you already have like the hull of a ship pretty much made, like more ship variants, they're easy to develop. They're easier to get in the game, I think, because you already kind of have the ship's profile. Like, if you had an arrow and then you had a variant of an arrow that did something a little bit different, they're going to fly similarly, so you don't have to mess with their flight model much. They're easy to develop. They're easy to get in. It gives us more things to do. And especially with ships like, mining ships, I'd like to see like 5-6 different mining ships, I'd like to see 4 or 5 different salvage ships. And you could do that with different variations of different ships. You could take a Cutlass and turn it into a mining ship, just slap some stuff on there. That's what Drake is all about, right? Mm-hmm. And if anybody complains about the lore, then heck them, because we're making a video game. We're not making a book. And I don't mean to say that against you, Paul. I know you love the lore.
No, lore is changeable. It's I'm one of those people who's like, if it doesn't make sense in the lore, throw it out. Just rewrite the lore.
It's just kind of like, except the Cutlass Steel. The Cutlass Steel, and that's my actual advice to CIG. CIG, if you're listening, take the Cutlass Steel, take all the assets of the Cutlass Steel, and just throw it in a dumpster. Just give everybody a refund, let them buy a Corsair for the same price, and just throw it in a dumpster.
Oh man, I
think variants. I think variants is a good idea. Leaning into variants, ship variants is a cool idea.
Okay, Subliminal. Your thoughts?
You should have prepared me for this question, dude. I there's like a bunch of little things. Oh man, I don't know. There's so much.
Think about what you like. Something you would want, like that's burning right now. Something that if CIG.
But there's no like Eureka thing. It's a bunch of little things.
What are the little things then?
I think they need to fix things. A lot of times something's broken, and the excuse that I give for them is that, well, this is gonna change. Yeah. So why make this? It's going to be a waste of time, and then it's going to change. Well, trading has been broken now for like 3 years, and I may be exaggerating, but yeah,
I think you're about right. It's 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, it's wild, man. I used to be a member of Galog.co. They had whole orgs and like groups of people that would trade and talk about like what type of trade routes to do and all this stuff, and we have piracy now, right? But the trading still doesn't work, and they could just dial the number. They could change the numbers. I was always like, well, we're gonna have what's the thing? Quantum,
the quantum system.
Yeah, quantum, yeah. That's gonna be a big game changer. And from my knowledge, that's in now. We have some aspects of whatever event where you buy fireworks. That works off of Quanta.
The AV equipment.
Nine Tails Lockdown. Yeah, some of the equipment does either make it work for all of it, or just like change the value so people can just buy more. Then trading can make its way back. Piracy can be worth it rather than just doing it for the fun. Like you could actually do it for the money. You know what I mean? Fix some of the little things. I used to be on the side of no, don't fix it. because I just thought the stuff was going to come sooner. But you're talking years of a major gameplay loop. I mean, Jump Town, that was trading.
Mm-hmm.
Without that, nobody would have been there. You could do that anywhere. So yeah, fix some of the little things that you could have someone in one patch just go through and tweak some numbers as a band-aid, and bring it back so we can have everything going again.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's I think that's it for our discussion. We're going to move on into the question and answer session of the stream. Thank you much to Subliminal and Zero. Make sure you check out their social medias, their YouTubes, their Twitches. You can catch them live. Subliminal, you're live mostly on the weekends, right? Or you live
Thursday through Saturday.
Thursday through Saturday.
Yeah.
And Subliminal, you're live more times than anyone else is. It's like 6, 7 days a week, 8 days a week, 9 days a week. When is that? Usually is it just kind of like all week, all the time? Is there any kind of set schedule for it? You're muted if you're trying to talk.
Oh yeah, you're muted.
I am muted. Sorry. Yeah. It's pretty much like any day, like 6 p.m. and on, like
Okay.
6 to 10:30 weekdays, because I work till like 4:30 on the weekdays. And weekends I'll get like an afternoon stream in, but usually it's evenings.
Okay. And make sure you check both of their YouTubes out. Fantastic stuff. Zero, for instance, I rated you when you were streaming when that big clip that blew up about with Burks having like crashed, and then you found
that was so cool.
The whole thing, the whole like proof of concept for PES that existed. And
I have a PES story if you have a moment.
Go for it.
It just entered my brain. So I don't know if you guys know Online. Online is he streams some, and he's hilarious, but he's also insane.
Yes.
So he found a bug in 318's PTU where Wallace Klim at Grimhex spawned like outside the station, like in a goofy little spot. So he found Wallace, like the little NPC, got him into a cutlass, and then flew him around the verse for a whole day.
Yeah.
And then he left him on Microtech and came back to that server shard the next day, and he was still there in the Cutlass Black.
Yes.
That's so cool.
Wow.
It is. He is still gone, by the way.
He literally stole Wallace Klim.
Wallace Klim is still gone on that server. I was on that server last night, and he's still missing. He's still stolen the mission giver.
Oh, it's great.
All right.
Anyway, that was ES story.
Yeah. And of course, Subliminal has some of the best guides out there for you, especially if you're a newer player. If you're looking to get a handle on the things of Star Citizen, check out Subliminal's YouTube channel for that one. And if you want to join us live, we do this, not just these two, but I do all sorts of people come on the Captain's Table live on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. I don't want to say the GMT because it's brain no work well when it comes to time differences and time zones. So, but come join us live, twitch.tv/TheAstroPub. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It would be really nice. And if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you dislike the video, hit the dislike button. But I do want to hear your thoughts on the future of combat and Star Citizen in the comments below. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.